I'm looking at something real quick. See if it
Now is not
doesn't
the
pop up.
time for
Doesn't
porn,
pop up.
Trevor.
Well, I'm on a video call. I thought that's the CNN way.
That is the CNN way. That is the CNN way. Yes.
We're better than that.
We're better than that, Trevor. We're supposed to be better than that, Trevor. Stop it. Welcome
to
the Naked Apple. Again.
But you don't have to know that, but now you do.
Yes. Yes.
Well, if we were in any sort of stable society, I would say this was quite the week for news.
Yeah, about that.
When was the last time we were in a stable society?
Yes.
1908?
1908?
I believe that was around the time of the Spanish flu.
Very stable.
Very stable.
That is correct.
We went to the DI today. My wife handed me a book that was U.S. presidents, and it's like biographies of all the U.S. presidents. And it had a quote on the back that was by Lyndon B. Johnson. And my wife's like, I could imagine you guys referencing a book like this all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but this one's probably full of shit. It references Lyndon B. Johnson on the cover.
Wop, wop. Yeah. Yeah. There's probably that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thought you'd appreciate that, Trevor.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for the day where the book comes out of greatest U.S. presidents and it's got Joe Biden on the cover. That's going to be a solid read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Solid read.
I mean, the book went through all the presidents through Obama. So, and it was on sale at the DI for $1. So
a whole $1.
Obviously, it's a page turner.
It's a banger.
Yep. It's going places.
It's going places. Like the trash.
Like the spare outhouse.
Anyways.
Anyway.
Before we get into an absolutely worthless government.
I thought we were already in an absolutely worthless government.
Well, before we get into delving into the even more worthless government than the worthless government we thought we had, I should probably have some sort of pickup in the form of your weekly dose of a vitamin B.
Is that a thing we should have?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't stall long enough for him. Oh, I can't even hear it, so I
can't. Welcome to your vitamin B.
Yay.
We have some news for you today.
It's good news, I'm sure.
It's the fake news we can trust.
And this has been your vitamin B.
A deep dive into the good news.
Start with the bestest of news. The very best. Only the best for you. The bestests. Mm-hmm. Biden awarded honorary doctorate for work as honorary president.
Your Honor.
Continuing on the same vein, Biden heads to beach house to recuperate after grueling 5-hour work week.
I would too.
The work ethic the man has to put in that much time.
What does a man have to do to earn his pudding? That's the phrase, right? Earn your pudding.
Yes, it is now. Speaking of pudding, Biden offers money to journalists to stop talking about his family's bribery allegations. This coming on the heels of him announcing that the $10 million payment from Romania to his cat is totally legitimate.
Why wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it be? Because foreign countries often pay animals large sums of money for no reason.
Yes. To Joe Biden's cat.
Definitely not money.
Speaking of animals with large sums of money, Congress raises debt ceiling to infinity million billion plus one. No takebacks.
No takebacks.
No takebacks. That's how you know it's official.
Uh-huh.
No takebacksies.
Mm-hmm.
In other...
You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
In other news, Feinstein says a recent Jedi attempt on her life has left her scarred and deformed.
As she my life.
Appeared before the Senate beneath a mysterious hooded robe.
To form a more secure society.
Yes. Yep. All right. Trump! That's it. That's all. Trump announces he will pay $5 million judgment in collectible NFT trading cards. That's as good as cash right there. Those are IOUs.
Better hold on to that one.
Better hold on to that one.
2 references to that movie so far.
Speaking of Trump, CNN host sues Trump for assault and defamation after town hall. Moving on to our next favorite rich person. Genius Elon Musk saves 22% on Twitter executive salaries by hiring a female CEO.
Yes. Smart business, really, is what all that is.
And as her first act as Twitter's new CEO, the new female CEO expands tweet limit to 1 million characters. But that's neither here nor there.
No, of course.
In other completely unrelated news, Mayorkas assures that droid army deploying onto planet is not an invasion. It's definitely not an invasion.
A lot of Star Wars references.
Definitely not. And last, but certainly not least, the media admits that they lied about that Russia collusion thing, but they want to reassure you that they are totally telling the truth about everything else right now.
Oh, how comforting.
That's it. This has been your Vitamin B.
Is that close?
You were like spot on. I thought you could hear it.
No, that was pretty good.
I'm color me impressed.
I'm not even mad.
I'm not even mad. That was
actually
actually
impressed.
quite brilliant.
Come, it's time for bed.
Okay. I'm down for that.
You convinced me. Yeah. So, this week's bushel of things is, well, it's a doozy. It's everything from the FBI to the FBI to the FBI to well, the Supreme Court's in there too. A bunch of other things down to the border because it's important.
Well, I
or
can't
something.
wait to hear how well the FBI is doing.
Oh, so well, in fact. Mike has picked a special stinger to start.
I have picked a special stinger to start because we're talking about the FBI.
It goes a little something like this. Took me a second to realize what you pushed.
Well, I'm glad you caught it.
For some reason, I thought it'd be smart to stuff a thing in my mouth before I talked a bunch.
Yeah, that is
Kind of like Mike did last time.
that's what she said.
Because, professionals or something.
I am the epitome of professionalism.
The Department of Justice has instructed the FBI that whenever you're going around to figure out where you should set up camp and look for crime, make sure you don't follow crime statistics because statistics are racist.
Of course it is.
Yeah. A whistleblower has told Congress that the FBI has documents that prove that Biden not only was communicating with a foreign agent to influence foreign policy for the United States, but he also accepted money from said foreign agent to alter U.S. foreign policy.
Isn't that called
Congress
bribery?
Treason is one that crosses the thing. Anyways, Congress told the FBI to hand over said documents, and the FBI told Congress not that we don't have it. They said you can't have it.
Aren't they required to send it over by law?
Well, pardon me, young man. Excuse the shit out of my goddamn French, but did you just threaten me?
Yeah, there's that one. A study found
Call me old-fashioned, but I would think that the FBI should follow the law.
Since when?
I mean, that's not what they were instituted to do, so.
That. It's kind of like
contrary to popular belief.
It's kind of like when you first realize that HR at your work is not there to protect you, but it's there to protect the employee or the employer. Sorry.
Yeah.
A study found that as mental health patients were no longer institutionalized, prison populations increased. Almost exactly. Vox, the super conservative Vox that we all know and love, is worried that the Supreme Court might make, quote, assault weapons, end quote, illegal in every state, thanks to Illinois crossing a line with their gun laws.
Make them illegal?
Oops. No, make them legal in every state.
I thought you said make them illegal. I was like,
No.
That's not what they're worried about. You have it backwards, sir.
Yeah, they're worried.
They are worried that we will have our rights back.
They're worried that you can open up a Sears catalog and buy a firearm and have it delivered to your door.
If only.
Those were the days.
Someday they will be the days again.
California
Won't be a word. It'll be an R.
A California special needs student was called a bigot and intolerant and homophobic for not wanting to learn about lesbian sex in school and is uncomfortable with male teachers being in the locker room for gym.
Good.
I have to say,
Yeah.
these Me Too standards are like flipping themselves.
If it wasn't for double standards, progressive wouldn't have standards at all.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there. But I kind of saw the Me Too movement actually going on its head when they started the Pound Me Too thing that they did on the social medias.
Hashtag Me Too, and you can interpret it Pound Me Too.
Because that's what it's called.
Because that's what it's called. It's the pound sign.
Yeah. Well, it became a little bit broad when
Broad.
Unintentional joke.
man, I did it again. Anyway, when they said anyone that's been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed, which like sexual harassment you could call like getting a compliment is considered sexual harassment these days.
It's true. Very true.
More or less.
A sliver of good news in the middle of all this. A 14-year-old boy saved his 8-year-old sister from abduction using a slingshot. The suspect,
Is his name David?
No, unfortunately. The suspect, after being
unfortunate.
apprehended, said he, quote, planned on severely beating the victim, end quote. Just because. Down on the border, Biden's Blue 42 set hike. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, leading up to the end of Title 42, said that Republicans are creating a fictional argument around the border invasion.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit, but I would expect nothing less from the leader of the Democrat House Party.
Illegal immigrants that were down at the border and crossing the border the last week while Title 42 was ending, being interviewed, specifically mentioned that it's because they knew Title 42 was ending is the reason why they were heading to the border.
I'm sorry, but the press secretary told me that's not why they were heading to the border.
Yeah.
Press secretary lied to you, son.
Yeah, it wasn't in her big book of everything to say the right thing there. Department of Homeland Security has been colluding with the Mexican government to control the flow of illegal immigrants so they didn't come rushing all at once after Title 42 ended. Because optics. And magically, documented border crossings dropped by half after Title 42 ended. Documented.
Isn't that the darndest thing?
Documented crossings.
Yeah, I'm sure illegal crossings went down after Title 42 ended.
Well, yeah, last week, the week of Title 42 ending, was a record-breaking week for crossings. So after that record-breaking week, they say that it dropped by half. Kind of like how when gas prices are $5, $6, $7, $8 a gallon, and then it drops to $4 a gallon, they say, look, it's gone down.
How comforting.
Yeah, but it was below $2 before you took office. Yes, but it's below my peak.
So, victory.
It's not as bad as I made it before.
It's less worse.
So I am better.
I
yes.
made it less worse. Be happy, peasants.
Yes.
And finally, illegal immigrants were telling journalists about their dealings with the cartels and smugglers, everything from running drugs to their children being taken for organ harvesting. That is this week's bushel of stuff.
Yay.
Thanks, Satan.
It's Satine, actually.
It's Satine, actually. So, Keith, what do you think we need to dive into first and foremost?
Oh, I want to talk about how statistics are racist.
How statistics are racist. All right. This is from the Daily Caller. Yeah, Daily Caller obtained documents from the Department of Justice that says the new policy would expand restrictions against the use of protected characteristics in law enforcement activities, including the use of, quote, facially neutral factors as a proxy, end quote, for certain protected characteristics. FBI agents and other federal law enforcement officers would be banned from using a person's actual or perceived race, ethnicity, gender, nationality, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, sex characteristics, disability status, or gender identity in any degree. The documents show the ban even applies to scenarios where using protected characteristics might otherwise be lawful. A specific example cited in the document is high crime areas, typically subject to aggressive law enforcement.
So
Directly or indirectly using protected characteristics to find suspects reflects and invites bias, making it prohibited by the proposed DOJ guidelines.
So if they aren't allowed to state the race of a perpetrator or the gender of a perpetrator, because I assume both of those are covered under their protected
Yes,
thing.
or the religion of the perpetrator.
Our
Or
suspect
their
is
gender. Wow.
6'2" individual.
Why are you short shaming?
Because I can't tell you that
You can't tell
He's
their-
white.
It's on the
their
loose.
skin color or any
What-
characteristics about them whatsoever.
What do they look like? Well,
they were
They are a human.
tall.
they have a
They
look.
have facial hair.
Okay, so he's not white. Oh no, definitely not white. No.
Now, you can't specify that in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Well, racism only doesn't exist towards white people. So
Of course not.
yeah.
How could it?
Officers would be given an exemption to the rules if their information about a suspect with protected characteristic passes a particular set of criteria for suspect-specific information. There's way too many S's in that sentence.
Just turn them into thuth.
I'm just doing the best I can. This information about a suspect with protected characteristics, quote, must be relevant to the precise locality and time frame, end quote, among other specific criteria.
Okay.
Criterion, huh?
Criterion.
I have an idea.
I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. You have an idea, Keith.
Okay, so the way that we can show people pictures of the perpetrators without, disclosing all their protected characteristics or whatever, what we could do is we could use a program that takes a picture and transforms it into a Simpsons character, and then we can show people that.
If he were on The Simpsons, he would look like this. Oh, I know that guy.
That's probably the best we can do.
I mean, that sounds fair to me. I'm down for that idea.
If they were on The Simpsons, they would look like this.
All's fair in love and arrest warrants, I believe is how that phrase goes.
Sounds about right.
Community crime statistics are explicitly identified as information that does not qualify for the geographical exemption the documents show. Officers and agents should not use statistics about arrest rates in particular communities when making decisions about where and how to focus their activities. Current and historical patterns of discriminatory law enforcement have led to higher rates of arrest in certain communities, particularly African American communities, the documents say. Crime statistics are, quote, inherently biased and unreliable, end quote, and using them, quote, reproduces the very discrimination, end quote, the DOJ policy is designed to eliminate, the documents continue. Gosh. Basically, you can't do your job, is what this new memo is telling.
Okay. Yeah, so you
FBI
can't
agent.
show characteristics of people, and also they're effectively looking for racial quotas for what they're doing. I'm not going to use race as an example just because I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, but my understanding is most crimes are committed by men, like 90% of them or something like that.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, you want to get even further into that?
Sure. Well, hold
The
on.
biggest factor, one of the biggest factors is fatherless.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the grand majority, like you're talking 90-something% of people in prison come from fatherless homes.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I believe there was an article released this week-ish saying that there are advantages to being raised by single mothers.
Yes, you can get free room and board, 3 squares a day, and a really friendly roommate.
He's got your back.
It's yes, it's much more likely that
He enjoys helping you get the soap you dropped.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. That took a turn.
No, something gay.
Derailed.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, with that,
Talking about prison statistics.
with that stirring imagery that Mike left us with,
That stirring imagery.
just the point that I was going to make is putting, shall we say, sexual discrimination as a metaphor for racial discrimination on quotas. Apparently, like 90% of crime is committed by men or something like that.
Uh-huh.
They're basically saying it's like, no, you can't. You can only arrest this many people of a particular race or gender or whatever. And so the police are like, hey, so they get a call, for a crime, and they say, hey, help, I'm being assaulted. And they say, what's the gender of the suspect? Well, they're a man. Oh, sorry, we can't help you. Is there any chance that? But let us know if anyone commits a crime that's a woman. We can arrest those people.
Yeah, we've exceeded our quota on men committing crimes. Yeah.
So apparently that's how these justice departments want to work. Let's see. This is Merrick Garland, right? Making this. Yeah. It has a picture of Merrick Garland, so it comes straight.
He's
from
the
top
head.
then.
Yeah, he's the head of the DOJ, which the FBI falls under.
So really terrible force of law. This is Garland's revenge, is what this is.
So if it didn't come from Garland, it came from Ray, who is the director.
Revenge of the
FBI.
Garnish.
Indeed.
Garnished revenge.
I'm not on the Supreme Court, so I'll just make this country burn.
Yeah,
Burn, baby,
yeah,
burn.
pretty much. He's a little bitter. Of course, thank heavens he's not on the Supreme Court because he's clearly retarded.
I almost have a soft spot for Mitch McConnell just because he's the one that got him off the Supreme Court. So
almost.
There's a part of me that just, Well,
and then I realized
Almost you
Mitch
convinced me
McConnell.
the turtle is worth something. You're not turtly enough for the turtle club? Turtle.
Turtles weren't so stupid. They wouldn't put straws in their noses.
Is that why they call him Cocaine Mitch?
Cocaine Mitch thing came out of nowhere.
Makes sense to me. Anyway. Mike, what's the rotten apple to you on that list?
On that particular list, I don't really know. The thing that really chafed my shaps this week was the Durham report myself, and we didn't actually talk about that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't put that on there.
You did not.
I did not. Yeah,
That happened after you compiled this list, actually,
It did.
I believe.
it did. Yeah, that one's fun because, well, it's so damning that even CNN had to come out and say, yeah, it makes the FBI look bad. And it exonerates Trump.
Yeah. But on the list, I would say illegal immigrants and their dealings with cartels and smuggling children.
Hold on,
Yeah.
let's not change the subject quite yet. So the Durham report, it basically says that the Russia collusion that the media wouldn't shut up about for what?
Ever.
4 years?
Still.
Won't
Like this was
shut up
mentioned. This was mentioned during the Hillary Clinton campaign and I believe the Biden campaign. You know, like by the candidates, by Hillary and Biden themselves.
Well, Hillary organized it, so there's that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh gosh. Once again, all the Democrats are just guilty of what they're accusing the Republicans of. Like the impeachment or whatever, they accused Trump of colluding, like using his position as president to like enrich himself from Ukraine, which is exactly what Biden is doing.
Yeah.
and then go after his political opponents, which again, that's exactly what Biden is doing. Like, we knew that before the 2020 election, and then they impeached Trump, which they didn't have any evidence for. We had evidence for Biden doing exactly the same thing, and they elect him president. It's almost like these people don't have any standards.
Almost.
Yeah, all they have is double standards. Anyway, so yeah, that's another. It's almost like a reverse conspiracy theory, because the Russian collusion hoax was a conspiracy theory of its own, except it was mainstream, and now it's been debunked as a bogus conspiracy theory. But us conspiracy theorists have been exonerated once again because we knew it was bogus from the beginning.
Time. Yeah, one of my favorite things still about Donald Trump is how much he unintentionally exposed of Democrats and progressives. Because, like the Russia thing and Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
The only reason why we know about Hunter Biden and Russia and Ukraine is because they were so adamant that Donald Trump was doing exactly what Hunter and Joe Biden were doing in Russia and Ukraine. So people started digging. Oh, they say this is going on, so let's dig into it. Hey, why is Hunter's name popping up all over Ukraine? Hey, why is it popping up when Joe Biden was vice president? Hey, why is it popping up while Joe Biden was... Why is it popping up that it was while Joe Biden was overseeing affairs in Ukraine that Hunter Biden also pops up? Well, it's Donald Trump. His name's not here. I'm turning over every leaf and stone. His name is not here. But yeah, it just boggles my mind. And then you try to tell people that, and you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And 6 months to 28 months later, turns out the conspiracy theorists were right. In other news, Donald Trump eats pudding weird. Is
that one of the articles? No, you're
that's basically what they do.
Oh, you're saying the media distracts is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, like that even worked on me. I'm like, what are you talking about?
he eats his
I want to
pudding
see.
with his hand. Yeah. The down on the border. Let's see if I can. Ooh, I can do this. And I can do this. I have no idea if you guys will be able to hear this because we're having sound issues, but let's see if it works. This is down in El Paso.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. And audio, go.
I hear nothing.
You hear nothing.
I hear nothing.
You hear nothing. Okay, well, fine. I'll stop presenting. Anyways, in the video, it's in the links, in El Paso, an immigrant through a translator is describing how they're traveling through jungles, their train rides, and dealing with the cartels in Mexico, saying that there's certain towns where they can only be there for a little bit. If they're there for too long, the cartels will pick them up and force them to smuggle drugs or force the women to do all kinds of stuff. And they'll kidnap the children to harvest their organs.
What was that last one?
Come again?
They'll kidnap children to harvest their organs. And just to be clear, the Biden administration has a strict law in place, or strict rule in place for border crossings, where if you come across with a child, you can get in. So they're actively endorsing
Child trafficking.
Not just child trafficking, but illegal organ trafficking via children.
Wait, why would they harvest organs again?
Because young child's organs are healthy and young, and rich people will pay a pretty penny to get young organs to replace their old failing ones.
More things that I didn't know existed that are just horrific.
Yeah. And on top of that, they'll harvest some organs that aren't vital to survive and replace it with drugs. So the drugs will get smuggled across, and then they'll operate on the kids again to get the drugs out of the kids.
Could someone help me understand one more time why the marketing around the border is that having open borders is the compassionate policy? Because it seems like the most horrific and inhumane policy to me.
I feel like it's the opposite.
That would be because it is the opposite.
Yeah.
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 I love it. I love it so much.
I'm looking at something real quick. See if it
Now is not the time for porn, Trevor.
Well, I'm on a video call. I thought that's the CNN way.
That is the CNN way. That is the CNN way. Yes.
We're better than that.
We're better than that, Trevor. We're supposed to be better than that, Trevor. Not okay with you pulling a tubing in the middle of this.
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
No, I can't find it. Dang it.
What? There's something you can't find?
I can. It just take longer than 2 seconds to find it. I saw a video of this guy that's down in Panama at the Panama Canal. And he's trying to expose some of what's going on. He's talking to migrants that are going across the canal and all this stuff. And he points out that he's on where the U.S. military base used to be for Panama back when, we owned it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, shit.
He's back.
Ooh, that went weird for a second. Sorry.
All right, something about the Panama Canal.
But he's going through the buildings that are on where the military base was, and one of the buildings is occupied by the Clinton Foundation and other NGO groups, right where people are crossing the Panama Canal. Yeah. But I can't find it. If I do find it, I'll put it in the link.
That's impressive.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to have a gander at here. Two things. So the Supreme Court thing that Vox is worried about, V as in victory. The case that they're looking at is National Association for Gun Rights versus the city of Naperville. And if the Supreme Court rules in the favor of the National Association of Gun Rights, it could potentially overturn most firearm laws across the country.
Tell me more.
The case challenges a Naperville, Illinois ordinance and a similar Illinois state law, both of which ban assault weapons, which the state law defines to include certain semi-automatic rifles. Certain semi-automatic rifles such as AR-15s and AK-47. So it specifically lists weapons, which is unconstitutional. But the state law prohibits the sale of, quote, large capacity ammunition feeding device, end quote, which the statute defines as long gun magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition or handgun magazines that hold more than 15 bullets. So, yeah. And it's a gun shop owner and the gun rights group that claim that the statutes violate the Second Amendment, which they absolutely do. And they're worried because Kavanaugh is on the Supreme Court, and in one of the in one of the rulings that he was involved in, previously he left a very broad definition on the dissent side of the ruling that makes them worried that if that kind of definition is used on the majority ruling, it would make it so that, well, you can't ban weapons because they have a lot of ammo capacity, a large ammo capacity. Yeah. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Got me all hot and bothered.
Yeah. It was the District of Columbia v. Heller. Do it. Do it. It permitted lawmakers to ban dangerous and unusual weapons. Kavanaugh read that decision narrowly in his 2011 opinion. He reasoned that semi-automatic rifles are neither more dangerous than lawful weapons such as handguns, nor are they especially unusual. Correct and correct. Among other things, he argued that at the time of his opinion, about 2 million semi-automatic AR-15 rifles have been manufactured that they know of. Flash forward a dozen years, and Kavanaugh is now the median
And about
justice.
half of them have been lost in tragic boating accidents.
It's very tragic, yes.
How that many Americans own boats is beyond me.
What do you mean you only found 100 rifles? There's over 10 million have been manufactured. There's a lot of boating accidents, apparently. Did you find their boats? Boating accidents. They sunk. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, flash forward a dozen years, and Kavanaugh is now the median justice on a Supreme Court. I'll buy that. Dominated by Republican appointees. So if he still believes semi-automatic rifles aren't particularly dangerous and unusual, he is well positioned to turn the opinion he wrote in 2011 into law.
Yay.
So yeah, they're worried about that.
As they should be, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
Ooh, they talked about the Second Amendment. Let's see here. Supreme Court Second Amendment jurisprudence. Turn a sharp rightward turn in Heller, which was the first case in American history to hold that the Constitution protects an individual right to bear arms, which is amazing that we had to have a case to do that. And Heller and the court's later Second Amendment decision are largely divorced from the actual text of the Second Amendment. Are they? That amendment, of course, provides that, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to security of free state, they have that highlighted special, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Thus, unlike most constitutional amendments, the Second Amendment does not simply announce that a particular right exists. It also states the purpose of this right to provide for a well-regulated militia. No.
that is not what it says.
No.
That is nowhere near what it says.
No.
What it says is because the state requires a militia to protect it, the people's right to bear arms cannot be infringed because they have to be able to defend themselves from the militia. That is its meaning.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and if you go through,
I haven't heard that
about
interpretation before.
Yeah, so if you actually read if you read the Second Amendment, I actually it was a thing that kind of dawned on me. I was listening to two constitutional scholar guys that were talking about it, like constitutional lawyers that were talking about it, and that's what they said. Is so you break it down. The first part of the Constitution says that a militia is necessary for the state.
Yes, and that's true.
Then it puts a comma. And then it says, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that's what they meant by that, is because the beginning is the reason. Because the state needs a militia, they need an army to defend themselves, the people should always be armed.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
Because
again,
the people should need, the people have need to defend themselves from the state.
talk to any gun owner that's a fan of the Second Amendment, and they'll tell you that the Second Amendment isn't for hunting; it's to protect against tyranny.
Yeah.
And what is the arm of the state? Obviously, it is the military. And
Yes.
so I think that could very well be a valid interpretation. I've never heard that particular interpretation put that way. It's always
Yeah, so-
confused me a little bit. Like I thought that the people were part of the militia
Nope.
or something like that. But yeah, I think that's a very valid interpretation.
Yeah, it's so if you look at all of the amendments, there is not a period. There is 10 periods within the 10 amendments. Because each amendment is one full sentence.
Yeah.
So they use commas to separate the different sections of the amendments.
Yeah.
And that's if you look at the rest of the amendments, that's the way they generally separate them too. It starts with the reasoning and then the rule.
Uh-huh. Yep. And then it also just goes from individual to state.
Yeah.
Is the order of the amendments. You have an individual has a right to speak, and an individual has a right to speak against their government. An individual has a right to bear arms because the government has arms. And it just keeps going down, and eventually gets to the point where at the very end of the 10th Amendment, anything not listed here belongs to the states. Not to the federal government. Yeah. And then the other one that was just fascinating is this one I can share. Let's see. Do that. Do that. That one. Sharing is caring.
What are we looking at?
So this was
Abstract art.
Abstract art, yes. This was a study done, an institutionalization effect, the impact of mental hospitalization and imprisonment on homicides in the United States, 1934 to 2001.
Ooh.
This is from the law school of the University of Chicago. It was revised August of 2010. You go way down to the bottom. Avoid all the word salad. Go way down here to the bottom, and you get to their actual tables and graphs of statistics and stuff. And this one was very interesting. So on the on this dashed line, see this little dotted line on the bottom. That's the prison rate since 1934 to 2001.
That
So the
intersection point is 2001?
No, this intersection right here is 1975, 76.
Oh, okay.
So 2001 is the end of the graph.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Can I zoom in? Boy, can I.
There we go. That's better.
Okay.
Too
So-
much. Too much.
Okay, so the prison rate is the dotted line.
Prison rate's the dotted line. The dashed line is the mental hospital rate. And then the
So that
solid line is the overall.
that cross is closer to 1978.
Is that what that is?
End of 77, beginning of 78, probably.
Oh,
Somewhere in there.
yeah.
So, in other words, as the mental hospital rate goes down, the prison rate goes up.
Yes.
So you get to the 60s with peace and love and all this stuff, and people hitting up the drugs. They start changing laws where you can't institutionalize people for mental stuff. And so that starts dropping. Then you get to the 70s where you start getting some serious riots and stuff because, I don't know, all the mental patients are on the street. And the prison population goes up. This is per 100,000, I believe, is the rate that they have on this. I thought that was fast. So we're almost zero on mental hospital stuff. And we're way up here in 2001 on the
Yeah, well,
prison rate.
that makes intuitive sense to me.
Yeah.
So, in other words, our prisons have become our substitute for mental hospitals,
Yes.
where a lot of people that should be in mental hospitals are now in prison.
Where they're not actually getting the help they need, and they keep going back to prison.
Yeah.
Or just released on the streets in the case of New York. Yeah, that was the main one. There's other fun graphs in here that basically tell the same story. I just thought that was interesting, especially with all the stuff that's going on that, well, it's the gun's fault. No, I think there's something bigger than the gun. Maybe. Maybe.
It's a small chance. It's minuscule, really.
It's just the slightest of chances.
Slightest of chances.
I heard I can't remember the podcast I was listening to. Some doctor was saying that one of the major drugs that's prescribed as a hormone blocker, one of its side effects is aggressive behavior. So traditionally it's given to before the last few years, it's been traditionally used as a way to artificially start menopause for women that are struggling with stuff.
And let me guess, they're giving it to kids now.
Yeah. And the main side effect of it is aggressive, angry behavior and thoughts and depression.
I'm shocked.
Who'd have thunk? You mess with the chemical balance of someone's brain and they do bad things.
Who'd have thunk?
Huh. It'd be interesting too to see if there's some sort of graph or such of like prescription drugs prescribed over time versus that hospital and mental institution rate. See what that looks like. Yeah.
That's just great. It's a good news week.
It's a great news week. Great one.
I love everything that just happened.
You are officially handicapped.
Officially handicapped. It must be certain wavelengths that don't work on that for me to hear it.
Apparently. Most random buttons don't work for you. It's very strange. Yeah.
Well, that's all I got.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. I tried to think of other stuff, but I've been slaving in the sun all day, so
That's fair.
I have nothing.
Yeah, it's been a long week.
Well, if you'd like, I can change the subject a little bit.
Go for it.
All right. Yeah. So I actually found that article that says that there are advantages to being raised by a single mom. I figure this is thematically appropriate, given that we just had Mother's Day. Now let's read CNN's way of celebrating Mother's Day, and then let's make fun of them.
It's from CNN.
Yes.
Excellent.
CNN Health. It's called "Let Us Now Praise Single Moms."
It's Mike's favorite source.
So basically, it says that the kids are all right because they said a 2017 study,
Isn't
however...
that an Offspring song? The kids are not all right. My bad.
Well, no. So, again...
That sounds right.
The single motherhood statistics have actually permeated the culture.
Permeated, huh?
People are all aware that kids raised by single moms are more likely to commit suicide. They're more likely to commit crimes. They're more likely to end up in prison. They're more likely to drop out of high school. They're more likely to get pregnant as a teenager. Just all of that sort of stuff. Like the culture is very well aware of those horrifying statistics. But never fear, according to CNN, a 2017 study looked at the long-term effects of single parenthood on kids and found that it had nearly no impact on their general life satisfactions. The authors found that there was no evidence supporting the widely held notion from popular science that boys are more affected than girls by the absence of their fathers, which mattered most in terms of thriving. And a separate 10-year study on single parenting that collected data from 40,000 households in the UK came to a similar conclusion last year. There is no evidence of a negative impact on living a single parent in a single parent household on a children's well-being with regard to the self-reported life satisfaction. So there we have it. Both of those studies are based off of self-reported life satisfaction. And based off of that, they conclude that there's no impact on a child's well-being being raised by a single mother.
So essentially, it's a single people are happier than married people type thing.
Well, again, this is
Because
referring
single
to
people say that they're happy.
yeah,
versus-
pretty much, pretty much. So, in other words, they are arguing that because of a self-reported study, when you're saying, hey, you were raised by a single mother, right? Like, are you more happy than the people? Are you more or the same happy as the people that were raised by two-parent households? I don't know how they framed the question, but, like, still, like, that, having been raised by a two-parent household, they can't know what that's like, you know? And if they say, yeah, I'm satisfied with my life, like, good for them for being like optimistic in their situation, but you can't say that that is therefore equivalent to being raised by a two-parent household. And also, there's the whole point of all the objective measurements that we have, like going to prison, you know, dropping out of high school, like those sorts of things. Those all
those don't
overwhelmingly say that being raised by a single mother is, putting it kindly, not ideal.
Suboptimal, if you will.
Like, again, there are lots of people that are in that situation, and I sympathize with them. That's like, that is tragic to be in that situation, but like,
it's not the kid's fault.
Yeah, you have to make the best of a good situation. But this CNN article is basically saying that being raised by a single mom is almost ideal.
Don't try to better your circumstances, just embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another
that's
thing,
a bold strategy, Cotton.
another thing is, like a lot of women these days are choosing the single mother lifestyle, and that just blows my mind.
Well, it's because they win in court almost every single time to get all the money from the
Sure.
father.
I mean, whatever their motivations, you know, I can't say that I understand it all that well, but yeah, I had a friend of mine. He came up to me and he said he was getting divorced, and his wife just said that she wanted a divorce basically for no reason. You know, he said something about how she was probably influenced by her, you know, her girls, her friends, you know, that she goes and hangs out with on girls' night, and they convinced her that she can leave her husband for any reason, and then she just did, you know.
He left the toothpaste on the counter once, and her girlfriend told her that she needs to get rid of him because he's a slob.
Well, anyway, and so it's almost like they're praising this lifestyle because, I mean, my theory is that all the media and really anyone influencing leftism is just trying to destroy the family, and so this is just another aspect of it, where they're trying to glamorize what is a horrible situation.
That is one of the tenets of the Communist Manifesto. So yes,
it is.
So yes.
Tell me more about that, Mike.
Have you never read through the Communist Manifesto?
I can't say that I have sat down and read it. And even if I had, our audience probably hasn't. So tell us more.
I think we've gone through it.
We've gone through it a number of times on this show. Trying to think, what was the summarization, the points that they read in Congress? Do you remember what that's called, Trevor? I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
2 seconds here.
The 10 points. 10 points of Marxism. That's what it was.
Not the 45 communist goals.
The 45 communist goals was what I was thinking of, but the 10 points is what I just found too.
All right, so I found what you asked for, but not
good.
what you meant.
Yes.
Okay, well, lay it on me.
Okay. So, no, it's the 45 goals is what I want. So, you've
the
got
45
that,
goals is what you... So I did find...
Yes. You did find what I wanted.
Okay, so what is it?
Okay. 1963, the 45 communist goals were read into the congressional record from The Naked Communist by Cleon Skousen. Let's see. There's a specific one you're looking for, I presume, because reading all 45 takes a while.
Is it actually
Control F. Control F.
Is it something about like separating children from their parents?
No. Goal number 40, discredit the family as an institution, encourage promiscuity, and easy divorce.
That's part of the Communist Manifesto. How old is that document?
So
again?
that was part of the 45 communist goals that they read in
Congress to take over the United States.
But yes, it is the 45 communist goals is essentially a summarization.
It says 1963 is when it. Oh my gosh!
But it is
old.
essentially it is a summarization of more or less the things that communism and the Communist Manifesto talked about. Yeah.
More proof, everyone. All of our institutions are communist.
And if you study Marx in any degree, you know that's right on point with Marxism.
Yeah.
Because Marx did not believe in the family. Goal number 41, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah, if you go through all of the goals, there's only like one or two that hasn't been done yet.
you wanna get even better in this. So the last few are awesome. Create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition. That students,
unless, of course, to fight against communism.
That students and special interest groups should rise up and make a united force to solve economic, political, or social problems.
Yeah, well.
Antifa. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self-government. Internationalize the Panama Canal.
That's in there?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Repeal the Connolly Reservation so the U.S. cannot prevent the World Court from seizing jurisdiction over domestic problems. Give the World Court jurisdiction over domestic problems. Give the World Court jurisdiction over nations and individuals alike.
Okay, well.
Those are the last few.
Sounds like that could be a good segment of its own, but bringing it back to the mothers for a second, for a little bit. So now that we have the communist part of,
life,
the media, and that, like, what's ideal according to CNN and apparently the Communist Manifesto.
They've completed like 10 points of the goals in the last like 2 years.
Yeah. I just want to share like what this Mother's Day has meant to me. So first of all, my wife lost her mom this last year. So this was our first Mother's Day without her. And that caused me to just reflect how lucky I am that my mom is still around. Mm-hmm. And something that led to is something that made me realize like how significant the sacrifices that parents have to make for their kids are. And I made that realization one day when my wife, she took our daughter to the play area in the mall, just to, so she could have some playtime in an environment where other kids are around. And there's nothing special about that, right? Just my wife takes our kids just so they can go play, no big deal, right? Mm-hmm. But then it dawned on me like how much we had to sacrifice just to make that little bit of playtime possible. Because I couldn't go because I had to work, which means I had to sacrifice my day so that my wife can do what she wants to with her day. And what does she choose to do with her day? She decides to sacrifice her day so that our kids could play and have a happy childhood. And then compound that sacrifice that both of us made to an entire lifetime. And that basically means that all parents, or at least parents where their kids have happy childhoods, have to the father has to sacrifice his life so his wife can live her best life, and those moms sacrifice their lives so that their kids can have happy childhoods and become adults that can choose how they want to live. And we've seen through these statistics, we were just talking about what happens to kids who are not sufficiently parented. And so, considering where our culture is going, where a lot of people are choosing to forego children just because it requires too much of them, like, it just caused me to reflect how much of a strength of character you have to make those sacrifices for your kids. And because of the statistics that we were just talking about, that is exactly what children need to become prosperous adults. And what I think is just so selfish of our culture these days is a lot of kids who become adults, after having a great childhood, they declare that everything is not good enough and they're not going to have kids. And also all these grievances that are things like, I had a toxic work environment in my first job, or I don't know. Like, I can't even relate to what they're calling traumatic these days because I think it's just so childish. A lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the times.
Yeah, oh crap, what's his name? The stupid guy that started the whole kneeling thing.
Sure.
For the NFL.
Kaepernick.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick. Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is
he came out and said, his parents were horrible and all this stuff. They adopted you and gave you everything that you have. And now you're turning around and saying how racist your parents were. It's like, dude,
yeah,
you're just slime.
Yeah, exactly. And that's being glamorized by the media and by this culture. And again, contrasting our heritage of our ancestors and our parents that for the most part did great sacrifices for us, or at least those of us that, grew up to be respectable adults. I just feel like there's almost no hope for the future of the children of these people who declare that the past is not good enough, because I almost feel like if you have that attitude that the past was not good enough or your parents were not good enough, there's no way you're going to be a good parent. Because the longer I'm a parent, the more I realize what you have to give of yourself to be a good parent. And people will take that and say, nope, not good enough. And I think that's just the pinnacle of being an entitled brat, basically. And now you're an adult and you're still an entitled brat.
You're still an entitled brat.
Anyway.
Some of you never had to hold a flashlight for your father, and it shows.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And last I checked, statistically, every single human being on Earth was born to a woman. So.
I'm sorry, what?
Last I checked, every human being that's ever lived was born to a woman.
Oh, yeah. I was once a man trapped inside a woman's body, and then I was born.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely need some better parenting, because all the greats that we have in society are great because they had parents that were good enough to make them great.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it was Lincoln that said, I am nothing without everything I am because of my mother, I think was what he said. So yeah. Yeah. Just because you are a single parent, it doesn't mean your child is doomed. It just means you might have a little bit more work to try to get that child the best chance they have.
Yeah. Well,
be a better adult than yourself.
I think just the tragedy is that every child can choose for themselves, and a lot of them, because of the culture, are choosing to be basically bitter, even though they had everything handed to them.
It's easier to be a victim than it is to be a solution.
Yeah, and these parents, they have to basically sacrifice their children on this altar of selfishness that the culture is promoting. And there's really nothing they can do about it because, like, everyone gets to choose who they are going to be. And it boggles my mind that anyone would choose to live just for themselves and not invest in a family as well, like their parents did.
Yep. And when you have kids and you're playing games with them, it's okay to beat the snot out of them in that game.
Yeah, well,
let them lose sometimes so that they know sometimes life sucks and you lose. But you don't quit, you keep going.
Well, again, like I feel like the concept of a family is one of the reasons why why my religious convictions are becoming stronger as as my kids get older and as I have to give more of myself to be a father, is because every year I just get happier and happier. Like I feel like it's not even possible to get any more happy than I already am, but it just kind of happens.
Right.
And I think the reason for that is because we as human beings, we crave intimacy and we crave being connected to other human beings. And the family is the best way to feel that way.
Yep.
But expanding out on that is being part of a community. Because I had a, how do I put this? Someone that felt like he wasn't being taken seriously because he was divorced. And like I do sympathize with that because there's lots of people that are in that situation that it's not their fault. But let me kind of turn it around a little bit. He was basically saying that he doesn't feel taken seriously as a single guy because you put so much stock into the people that are married. And again, the not paying attention to the people that are divorced, like that's a separate issue. But I would say that there is a lot of logic for automatically trusting, like giving more trust and respect just right off the bat to those that are married, because that takes a lot of like trust and hard work and dedication and so forth to stay married.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And so that gives you the privilege of a lot of social capital right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm saying. So anyway, back to the religious conviction. Like we all crave intimacy. We crave being connected to other human beings, and being a parent gives you that because we are driven to better ourselves, and no one's going to want to marry you unless you better yourself and become capable of providing for a family. And then you can have that intimacy. And as long as both of you are willing to sacrifice for the family, you'll be able to get that intimacy. And then children, like even as a couple, that intimacy is a little bit like it gets boring after a while if that's all it is, which is why you need children to continue to demand things of you and grow as a person. And then add community into that as well. I feel like we crave all of those things, and being part of a family and a community provides all of it. And yet people are turning their back on it because, I don't know, it requires responsibility. Like, exactly. I don't even understand it, frankly.
It's the responsibility part, yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyway, yeah, I think it's just so funny that our generation flees from responsibility because I guess it's hard, I guess. But like what you get in return for that is you get a fulfilling life. And you can argue that that's not how human beings are meant to live. But I mean, look down. How do I put this? Like, our sexual parts are made for having children. And so like you can kind of get a hint that's what we're meant to do with our lives. And we've learned from the statistics that we just
heard
went
it
over.
Straight from Keith.
The
meaning of life is in your pants.
Basically, because that's the only way we can
Case solved.
Have families.
Yeah.
So anyway, because we've learned from the statistics that we were just talking about that what children need to become like healthy adults is they need a mother and a father. So even if you take the religious aspect out of it, like we know what kids need to become like well-adjusted adults. They need a mother and a father. And so that gives you a clue that the mother and a father need to spend their lives fighting for the well-being of their children. And it can be a theistic paradigm or not even that. And it's very self-evident to me. And yet our culture is basically encouraging everyone to not have a family or be a single mom or be gay or, whatever.
Be not what has worked for millennia.
Yeah. Be anything but that.
We realize this whole system has worked and kept humanity going and even thrived in some instances since forever. Stop doing it.
So anyway, point is, like, this culture talks about all their mental health issues and all that sort of thing. Like, what do you think is going to happen when you're lonely all the time? Lonely with no purpose. So anyway, point is, if you don't have a family...
That was rhetorical, right? I'm not supposed to answer that.
Point is, if you don't have a family, go get one. They're the best.
Better yet, go make one.
Or go make one.
It's way more fun.
Practice makes perfect.
And
get married first. Can't emphasize that enough.
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah. And from my experience too, if you think life is a drag and just drags on and on, kids will multiply the time that you experience, because I feel like last year was like last month.
Yeah.
Was approximately 5 months ago.
Yeah. I've got three kids and one more on the way, and it feels like with each one, time goes faster and faster.
Yep.
So, yeah, all the bad stuff gets washed away in that short amount of time, but you remember all the fun, happy stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's good.
Yeah, it's really great.
Generally, that's a good note. That's a really good note to end on after that FBI crap.
Yeah.
Wrong. Wrong. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you at least could hear that one.
Ah, yes.
Stop, don't come back.
Got that one.
All right. Well, you guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, follow, check us out on Rumble.
And share it and whatever else.
Share. Stop in and say hi every once in a while.
Stop and say
Never
hi.
call anymore.
You said you were just going out for milk.
That was 6 years ago. Bye.
Bye.
What the hell is even that?
Sorry. I have to do the clap again. I wasn't recording.
Oh.
It helps if you.
Hell, it does. Mm-hmm. You can't just give the clap all willy-nilly.
I mean, you can. Literally willy-nilly. I've got the clap.
Just give it to the world.
And
What the hell is even that?
Heard that.
oh, good,
Loud and clear.
good,
Good.
Yeah.
good.
All right.
That's what I like to hear. Okay,
Sounds like we can move on.
let's go.